I guess, James, the questions that I have is you're in an area where there's 3 times the amount of members than there is like in our whole division where we're at in Iowa. And so I have a hard time when I look at our membership as far as the NMRA constantly being on a downward slide, that I don't see that we're getting new members in our area, at least. It just seems like the numbers continue to keep falling. And I don't know if that's.
So I get that question a lot. Here's the thing. The hobby is growing, the clubs are dying because the clubs do not market to anyone outside their little bubble. And that is including TCA and NMRA as well, because they're just marketing to their little bubble, meaning that no one outside their little bubble knows that they exist. So they have to, all clubs and national organizations have to start marketing a little bit outside their bubble, and they will then see results.
So where do you think we come to this crossroads where the NMRA headquarters or the powers to be start to say what we're currently doing doesn't seem to be working anymore? And if we continue down that trend, it's, going to be harder to build back up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
One comment to build on these other comments is there's a lot of truth in what James is saying. I've been watching the club down in Coralville, the Hawkeye Mountain Road Club. They have a substantial amount of new members, more than a dozen, that are probably 18 or less. And they went out and they specifically found those people. So I know what James is saying is true. The younger people are out there, they're interested. We just have to find a way to engage them. And I think it's going to have to start at the local level. It's going to have to bubble its way up from the division to the region to the national. For the most part, we're going to have to do a lot of this, at least initially, at our own level here at the division.
Bob, how many younger people did the club find?
I think at the last time I checked, and I haven't been down there in several months, but they have about on the order of 10 to 12 younger people there in the club. And if you go down there on an operating night, you'll see quite a few of them.
But it still goes back to what I was saying. If those young members are part of the club, and that's great, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to ever transfer over to become NMRA members. So we have two things going here.
That's true.
Local clubs are gaining membership, and I get that, and I see that's the trend. What I don't see is the NMRA has a chance here to rebrand itself or do something different to make it more appealing, and probably not just to young members, but to all of us that are members.
Right. We're going to have to reach out to those clubs, those local organizations, maybe by hosting a clinic there at their site or their Zoom audience to say, here's what we are, here's what we can offer you, here's how we can help you, etc. I've already talked a little bit to Jerry Brown about that. He hasn't taken me up on the offer yet to come down and talk to his club about, what the achievement program is, what the NMRA offers in the way of standards and other benefits. But I think it's something we could do.
John, gentlemen, if I could just say hi and introduce myself. I'm John Doring. I joined in tonight at James's invitation. I know Pete. I see you there, Pete.
Yep.
Nice to see you again. I am a member of the Hub Division, which is the Boston, Massachusetts area, and I'm currently the president of the Northeastern region of the NMRA, which is sort of New England and New York and New Jersey and Eastern Canada. And I've just been elected, and will start next month as the Eastern District Director on the national board. So I guess, this NMRA powers that be, this will all be my fault, I guess, in a couple more weeks. but I will say this: I won't promise any results, but I can promise that the new administration that's coming into the national NMRA is really different, really super in tune to what James is talking about tonight, and really enthusiastically looking to change the way we approach the hobby, and this kind of disconnect between dwindling membership in our association and pretty robust kind of development of the hobby in general. So, there's a lot to do there, and there is this kind of debate or question about what happens at the national level versus what happens on the ground at the local level. But one thing I found as both a board member of a division and also now for 6 years the president of a region is, I think what the region can do to the division and what the national can do to the regions is just help provide resources, help people figure out how to do stuff, so that not everybody out there in the world is trying to figure all this stuff out like all by themselves, right? Every problem that you could put on your list of what's going on at your local division is being faced by over 100 other divisions. And it's like everybody's sort of in their own little world trying, like, how do we do that? How do we connect with the local clubs, right? And I see from my vantage point, it's like, boy, if we could just figure out how to marshal the resources of the whole association and give more help, toolkits, support, other people. We always are going to struggle a bit in this association, I think, with the fact that we're all volunteers and we kind of have limited bandwidth and we do the best we can. But we're super in tune, and I think you're going to see a lot of trying of new and different things. Would you agree with that, Pete?
Yes, there will be a member recruitment drive organized. You'll have reasons that you can give to people why you should join the NMRA, what the NMRA will do for you. But the whole secret to that thing is, after we get them in, we've got to show them value. We've got to contact them. We've got to invite them to events. Some guys they don't want to go to events, but at least you invite them, whether they show up or not. I know you're Eastern Iowa. You like Dubuque in that area?
Dubuque is part of the Thousand Lakes, but it's the neighbor of us.
So you're south of there?
No, we're just a little.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Cedar Rapids.
Cedar Rapids. Okay, I got it. I grew up east of Dubuque, so I'm somewhat familiar with your area. Okay, but so a guy joins. What's going to happen? Somebody needs to contact him right away. Whatever events you have or clubs you have, invite him. Even if talk to him. What's a guy into? Give him a call. What do you model? What do you what scale are you? What do you do? Just even that little contact goes a long way. I mean, I've heard guys say, "Well, I joined and nobody ever contacted me."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, sure.
So
there's a lot we can learn.
Yeah, where the rubber meets the road is really going to be where the members and the division level. We as national are going to be putting together programs. I'm going to be part of the new administration team. I'm going to be taking over statistics, but I've been director in San Diego for a long time and also PSR membership chair. And I make sure that everybody gets contacted when they get the new member list. They get an email, they get a phone call, they get talked to, they get invited to go to something. They're offered a buddy. There's a buddy system out there. Do you need help on something? Do you have questions? Just show them value, and the whole discount program. I mean, guys being in Iowa, you probably don't have a plethora of hobby shops that sell every train item you want. So people mail order. Well, there's a lot of discounts available, and you can pay for your membership just with the discounts. So anyway, that's my thought. Follow up is going to be the key.
James, I also wanted to just suggest to you that as I listened to your presentation, my sense was, while lots of things change, what's the old saying? The more things change, the more the same they are. A lot of kind of your experience sort of reminded me of my experience when I was 18 and 20, and you start at one place and you kind of grow and evolve. But one of the things I think it might be missing today, I think certainly it's missing today, when I was 12 years old and trains were still about toys mostly, I got introduced to my first kind of adult model railroaders. And that was an epiphany. It's like people actually take this really seriously. Well, those people, and I was 12, those people told me about the NMRA. They didn't try to recruit me into the NMRA, but they told me that it existed, and they explained this thing about the MMR, and they showed me, and even though that was a seed that took 2 more decades to kind of blossom into something, I knew somewhere down deep inside that it was the thing to aspire to. That's what I remember from being a kid. It's like, there's some serious people in here, and they, and they do real stuff. And someday I want to do that. And I just feel like that's probably a lot of what we have to do. We have to be ambassadors of the hobby and plant seeds with people. And they don't blossom right away all the time, right? Or as James, I think, suggested a couple of ways, they blossom in ways we didn't know about, or we didn't expect, or we don't think of, right? Because our paradigm is, well, you do it the way we do it. And this is a weakness, I think, that many of us who are I'm 62, and most people my age and older in this hobby have the same origin story. Sort of Lionel train set under the Christmas tree, and then we had the teenage years with cars and girls. We always say that same thing, we all have that story, but younger people don't have exactly the same story. I have young kids in this age range, and for them, cars are just transportation. They're not something that they're in my generation, cars and sex were the same thing, right? I was sort of in love with both of them. So we have to get more in tune to what the origin stories are like today. If it's rail fanning, if it's sort of all those kinds of things that you talked about today. So I think that's really great reminder. And maybe one of the best things we can do is just keep hanging out with people who aren't like us. Age, background,
Would you guys like to hear a story from a completely different approach of a group that's trying to get people back involved in the NMRA as the last thing we talk about?
Sure.
South Texas, where you can go 300 miles north-south, 300 miles east-west across the South Texas region of Division 6 of the Lone Star region. And for years, we suffered the consequence where the normal person division rep that got elected was a member of the large club in San Antonio, which is on the north end of 300 miles. And their philosophy was often, you want to know what's going on, come to the club layout. So what it did is it ousted the various clubs. So you guys talked about different clubs. If the largest club you have there is bigger than everybody else, they can outvote everybody and not accomplish much. What we found down here is the NMRA became a useless name in the South because most people never saw any benefits. The division rep in the region led to that. So because of these problems, just about 4 years ago, me and a friend started something called the South Texas Railroad Socials. It's not even a meeting. Who wants to go to a meeting? Nobody likes meetings. We got socials. And what they've worked out to is a lunch gathering that's a couple hours at a restaurant here. And we ask anybody that has an interest in railroading to come. You got to buy lunch to help cover the cost of the party room there at the restaurant. I run a couple clinics. We batch a show and tell. We've got some regional news. We talk about train projects. We talk about things coming up. And then we open the floor and let people just talk and socialize. And this is all over a meal. And at no point is anybody ever waving the NMRA flag in their place. And we've actually found that a lot of people were not fond of the NMRA in this area because of the side effects of the past. And now what I'm trying to introduce into that table is, how many people here don't have 200 cars on their layout or in a closet that have Katy couplers, that have metal wheels, that have blah, blah, that are, let's say, $20 a piece? How many people here don't have 30 or 40 engines, and a good number of them have got sound and some don't? So you can come back and say, these engines on average are 200, 250, these are 100. And how many people here haven't thought about the fact that if your garage caught on fire because your car overheated with the lawnmower, your insurance company doesn't cover it, and you just lost $10,000 worth of model trains? Did you know that there's an insurance agency out there that insures model railroad stuff? Exclusive, because your homeowner's policy doesn't do that. Now, this is an insurance company that works with the NMRA and its members and people with trains to turn around and insure these things. It's something you might want to look at. Now, let me show you something else. How many times did I say NMRA in that whole spiel? And now we got people coming up to us after going, where was that insurance company? You said I got to go where? We've actually got a growing group down here of people who are coming back together from different clubs, different groups. There's no dues, there's no membership. I don't care which club you're a member of or not. Let's get together, have lunch and talk trains. Maybe y'all may consider similar where it's let's once every month or two have a luncheon at a restaurant, have the different clubs come, have different people talk and give a clinic. Don't preach or promote any one group, but on the sideline, you've got a table or a poster or something for each club and the NMRA as well. And you're bringing people together and you're letting them pick some options, but you throw little benefits out there where you're not preaching an NMRA clinic. You just gave a clinic and said this whole thing is available on the NMRA panel. So people are subliminally seeing this kind of stuff. So they don't walk in the door going, oh, I've got to join something. No, you walked in the door and you had to buy lunch and come hang out with other trained people for 2 hours. That's what we've been doing down this way for going on 4 years. And I have had pretty much good success with it, but you're still going to have those weird people you just don't know how to reach. And I'll shut up for now.
That's great, Ron.
It's been real interesting this early part of this month. I sent out a survey to our division and we had some questions because we've revamped our, what we call our wigwag, which is basically a newsletter, and had some questions of, you know, people's views of, as we do come out of the post-pandemic, you know, if people are feeling like they'd like to go back to face-to-face. I like some of the ideas that James brought up with, you know, even doing a hybrid where, hey, we'll do board meetings face-to-face, but we still could offer something on a monthly basis, whether it be a clinic or whether it be a virtual layout tour of that. And so do a hybrid model to hit everybody's needs. But the one thing I thought was interesting was the last two questions on our survey was basically how we were doing or how people's views were as a division, as a region, and what people thought of the NMRA on a national level. And my goodness, the survey went out to close to 40 members and I've gotten 18 responses, but it's just a real hodgepodge of a mess to kind of say, wow, some people have some really strong opinions and I'd like them, you know, I wish I knew why their reasoning was, whether it was something that we have done at the local level, whether it was something that was done at the regional level, whether it was something that was done at the national level, because it's definitely the one question of how likely would you be to renew your NMRA membership was really split more than I thought it was going to be. So.
Yep.
We did a survey in the NER a few years ago. We have 1,600 members in the NER, and we had about 300 responses. So that's a pretty big data set. And actually, in that case, we got pretty good feedback. But I also think you got to realize, you know, if there's a bias, right? There's a sort of positivity bias if 20% or 30% of people respond. And I guess in all surveys, there's a bias. It could be endpoint bias. You're getting the more vocal fans, and you're also getting the more vocal people who are wound up in kind of a negative way. But I would suggest did you say 40 people or so? You know, yeah. That's a manageable size that maybe 3 or 4 of you, 5 of you could do some calling behind or trading some emails and see if you can get some people to kind of unpack that a little bit. That's also a good way to sort of touch people and change their mind, right?
Well, and the one thing I thought was interesting, and this will be a surprise to our wigwag editor because I haven't shared this with him, but there's been basically 5 of us who have contributed or put some kind of information in our bi-monthly newsletter, and it's the same 5 people. But when I asked a question of would people be willing to write an article or do a little like something that's on your workbench that you're working on that we'd love to see. It doesn't have to be completed, but just what's something you're working on. Well, we had 65% of the people say, I'd love to put something out there. Well, great. Now we're going to throw that back at you when we go over these surveys and say, now 65% of you said you would do something, help our editor out and send something in.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you've been around this thing for a while. I know this was a lesson learned for me too, because I have a sort of a marketing background, and it's really attractive. The notion of marketing at scale, this is what you can do with social media and stuff, right? You can touch a lot of people with relatively low effort. But when it comes to volunteering, actually doing something rather than just engaging, but like writing an article or coming and helping at the next train show, sales works better than marketing. And by that, I mean, high touch, right? You put your arm around somebody and you say, hey, I know you said you do write an article. I need one for next month. And looking people in the eye. So, because it's sort of easier to say I will do that than it is to actually do it, right? And you probably got that too, right?
And I think that's probably been more so the case now, since we've not had the face-to-face, that it's really easy to say in an email, yeah, I'll do that, than it would be for me to look at a person face-to-face and say, yeah, I'll do that, and then really be saying, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Kind of thing.
Well, I think people mostly have good intentions, and when you ask me if I'll help, I'm not fibbing. I really would like to help it. But then life happens, right? And other things happen. So I know for me, and the old timers all say that, right? If you need somebody to really jump in and help, you really have to high touch. You have to really get close to them.
Right. And I think
I like this idea of this, the buddy system and the blacksmith. The blacksmith is a craftsman apprentice model, right? You follow somebody around and learn the trade from the expert. And I think that's kind of how you learn model railroading a lot, by getting close to people who've been there and done that. But that does imply that we get close to one another.
I think the one thing is, with our Eastern Iowa division, we know we're not going to keep everybody happy. Not everybody's going to have the same interest, and that's true no matter where we're at.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is to have that presence of, we're at least offering something. And so whether you want to join a clinic, whether you want to see a virtual layout tour, whether you want to, hear something about, the next generation, that was sent out to 38 people, and we have just a handful of members here tonight. So, tonight's is recorded, so it'll get sent out, and I'll be real curious how many hits it gets after it gets sent out, right, of members that'll watch it, because it will be a link that'll just go to our Eastern Iowa Division members. So could be,
we have 350 people in the Hub Division, so it's one of the bigger divisions. But I also have 16 divisions in the region, and half of them are small groups, sort of 50 or less. The numbers hold up across our region pretty much. We get sort of 20% of the people are kind of really active, and 10% of the total are the ones that are doing all the heavy lifting. It sort of drives me crazy all the time. So yeah.
Well, and that has definitely been the case, whether it's a group of 1,600 or a group of 40. It's the same 5 to 7 people that seem to carry the brunt. As I told James, I said our division is a little bit like the little red hen. Nobody wants to come and help make the cake. Nobody wants to grind any of the workings of it. But when it comes to the fun stuff, everybody wants to have that part of it.
I do think that here's my take on this is that if you have, however many people you have that are really active in your group, there's that many more people in your division that would be active. They're close, right? They just don't know that they're supposed to be here tonight, right? They need somebody to help them. There may still be that many more beyond them that it doesn't matter what we do. We're never going to get them. But I, for one, was one of those kind of people, right? It was like somebody had to drag me in there, and I had to go through that sort of awkward experience of the first 1 or 2 touches going to a meeting and not fitting in. And, lots of people in the NMRA, lots of model railroaders aren't terribly talented when it comes to meet and greet and extroversion and all that kind of stuff, right?
Social graces.
Right, social graces. It took, but I think there are of our, we now have about 17,000 members. I think there's, which is way not enough, of course, but I think there's several thousand NMRA members that could be a lot more active and a lot more engaged if we could just kind of get to them and work on them a little bit, you know. So
I think
would
one of
encourage you to keep at it, because there's a few more people that, you know, they're gonna fall in love with you guys. They just need to you need to get them in a little closer, right?
One of the things that I've seen is people worried about volunteering to do some NMRA tasks because they feel it'll end up being too big a job. Or if you've got a division that has maybe 3 or 4 guys that or 2 guys that are pretty much running the show and do everything. And if you break it up into a lot of smaller manageable tasks, you'll get more volunteers. You also have to have a description of exactly what the job is, you know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because if they know what what's expected of them, they're more likely to volunteer than if you just say, oh, you know, we want you to go be the director, the superintendent. Oh, you don't have to do much. You know, give them a job description. Tell them what they have to do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I found divisions that have more people involved doing a lot of small jobs are more successful than ones that have just a couple people doing massive jobs.
One
James,
thing that I'd like Pete and John to think about as you guys move into that national administration role is we've been informally following how fast it takes to, or how quickly the national office responds to membership renewals. And it's taking 4 to 5 months for us to get our acknowledgements back after we renew. And we've had members that have renewed that their memberships were never processed.
How were they renewing? Were they doing it online or by mail?
Yes, they were doing it online, and they
Really?
yeah, and the one individual I'm thinking of in particular, at one point he did it online, and then the next time he sent in a check, and it never got, neither one got processed.
Yeah.
The
That's
other
the first I've
thing
heard
we're
that.
fighting is we're not getting the membership lists in a fast enough manner so that we can contact those new members
Yeah.
and welcome them to the group. You know, Tony, what's it taking? 3-4 months to get an updated list?
Oh, that's
It's
ridiculous.
actually up to date.
Well,
I
Let me
get one
speak
every
to that.
month, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Whoever,
They're just so backdated.
okay, whoever your membership chair is for the region gets a list every month.
Every month.
Like we'll get one the last couple of days of June for June's list. It'll have new members, it'll have all that. That is sent to everyone. So you need to be talking to your guy that's doing your membership because he's not processing that.
well,
the
the
region.
problem we have gotten is we will get at the end of every month, we'll get a membership list. It will come to our director and that. The problem we've had is it's a trickle down effect. If somebody joined in January and it didn't get processed, and now we've had January, February, March, April, May go by, and all of a sudden this person shows up on our membership list when we get it in June, and we're
I hear
thinking
you.
this person's a new member. Great, let's send them out information. And then we say, welcome to the Eastern Iowa Division, you know, blah, 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 give them the whole spiel, and then find out that the person joined in January. It's really kind of disheartening because here this person has missed all of our events that we did in January, February, March, April, May,
Yeah.
and June that they could have been a part of.
So I can say just because I know Gordy Robinson really well, and he's the incoming president, and this is one of his pet issues. Gordy works in a business where, and if you think about it, we all live in a world now where we really expect instant turnaround when we join things. You put your name, your credit card number in, whatever it is you're joining, you're registering for a convention, you're buying something online. It just happens automatically. And so I know this is one of Gordy's top priorities to make this happen right away, because if we're going to sit around and talk about recruiting and retention, and then we're going to have such a clunky sign up system that people start off on the wrong foot. Now, the second question about the sort of getting the membership list thing is slightly more complicated, but for a couple of reasons. One, that the database that all of that's in is pretty old and antiquated, and that's going to require some investment and some work. I think that's also on the list. The other thing is, because the association's a little bit crazy about not wanting to, they're protective of this list. They want to make sure that it doesn't get out, that we don't have privacy concerns, that we, that people don't get spammed, all these kind of things have led to this kind of culture that says, make sure nobody has this list unless they're on a need to know basis, right? So it just goes to one contact at the region, and then that person's supposed to spread it out around to all the divisions. And if, it's not an excuse, it's just kind of, I've lived and kind of tried to deconstruct that. And it's like, yeah, by the time that gets from national to a region, then a membership chair kind of has to divide it all out and put it into different Excel tables or whatever it is, however you do it in your region. It too is just very clunky. We got a lot of room for improvement. And I guess, again, I don't want to overpromise, but I know this is at the top of the list. This is
I agree. I've been tracking, the Arizona division had 2 live shows, and they signed up a bunch of new members for Rail Pass, and they charged them $5 with the division paying the other $14.99. So I said, okay, so some of them got mailed in and some of them got done online. And I was really watching my membership list to see, and I got them all the same month. I mean, the shows were in April, I got them in May for both sides, for both the mail-ins, which I was worried about because sometimes mail at headquarters had a tendency to sit. All of these got processed as new members, right away, same month, which is the way it should be.
Yeah, we got some work.
I would agree with that. I think another thing we need to think about is the NMRA National needs to show value differently than it has been in the past in order to actually get some hooks into that potential member, because they're looking at this stuff and they're saying, I don't give a damn about standards. I don't give a damn about this thing or the other thing. What is it going to do for me? What am I going to get out of it because of that instant gratification that James talks about?
Right.
And so I think in order to attract members, the marketing and sales have to be done differently.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we have to show value. We have to show why they should give us their money. And simple as that. We're selling a product. We need to promote that product.
And just a side part, and maybe you guys don't know why this is, but why can't membership be done through PayPal?
Similar to what we talked about. Yeah. Similar to what we talked about earlier.
Convention in 2019, I was able to do all my registration, all my clinics, all of that, and boom, paid for it all on PayPal, and it was good to go. And it seems like, couldn't that same thing be done for memberships or conventions or that?
Yeah, it could be.
And maybe there's more to it that I'm missing, but I'm just thinking here, when we're thinking of how slow it takes things, this would be simultaneous. It would just be done. So
yeah, I think that's wrapped up in that whole how do you interface online to sign up and all of that. And I think I'd be really surprised if there isn't an up-to-date solution to that within the first year of this new administration.
Tony, I just got finished. Well, we've got the Tulsa Union Convention website going for Mid-Continent and Lone Star region. And one of the things there is you can register online. You register, you bring your spouse, you go back and pick your layouts. But one of the variables you run into that might explain part of that on the corporate level is not wanting to pay a commission every time somebody registers. they opted, I had to go with a free shopping cart feature. The free shopping cart feature ain't as pretty and it ain't as smooth. And we've had people pick layouts, but get to pick times. Corporate or NMRA corporate may be looking at it from the sense that we don't want to pay 5% every time somebody registers. You know, they're going to register for $50 basic membership or $80 with the magazine, and we don't want to give away $8 of that $80 or 5% for that $80. So that just could be a possible reason is somebody is looking at it from the, I don't want to give up $5 just so we can have this convenience. I'm happy mailing a check myself and not realizing, hey, yeah, but how many people would have paid last night and renewed because they could have done it online and through PayPal. So
Right.
that's personal experience.
And that's what I mean. If there's other things that are in the works because of that, then I get that. That's fine. But
Remember too, that they're paying a fee for every credit card transaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really doubt that's what it's all about.
I think it's a technology issue personally. I think
Yeah.
our technology just hasn't kept up. It will. We have a new technology guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just
There's
going
gonna
from
be
my experience from the N-Scale convention in 2019 when I was able to renew my membership through PayPal, attend the convention, pay for everything through PayPal. It was just like, it was great, you know, and then got a printed receipt with everything on it. So
yeah.
We'll make sure that happens. I mean, it's probably on the list already, but we'll double check.
well, and I realize these things take time too. I mean, it's not going to be just boom, first month we're in, all these changes. It takes time, but I think sometimes making
That's an
that,
important one, though. That should be at the top of the list.
that
Well, you're
transparency.
gonna get
of
you're gonna
getting
get
it
a new
out there.
president. So you're gonna get a new president of the NMRA here next month, who's in his early 30s. The new technology guy is probably 40. You know, you get a lot of people who instinctively ask these kind of questions, you know, like, this doesn't make sense. Why can't we do this? And I think that all by itself, we know it's going to be a breath of fresh air because there's a lot of feathers been ruffled already.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and a lot of people have, you know, so again, I'm always reluctant to overpromise results because I'm not in on the inside yet either. We may get in there and find out there's some challenges that are more complicated than we thought. That's likely, right? But
I think
still,
that,
I know
So
I've
if we don't have PayPal, it'll be John's fault.
I think the transparency of just making that apparent to all of us, whether it comes out in publications or that, just so people know what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
close.
I think you'll see more transparency.
But not everybody.
I'm a big believer in having been, you know, in region administration now for a number of years. I'm a really big believer that we have to make the business side of this go a lot smoother so that most of what we're talking about on these conversations is choo-choos, not policies, you know, not shortcomings, but you know, that's all just supposed to be sort of back of office stuff so that we can play with trains.
I would be all for that because my last job was a director for our division. And we spent 40 minutes arguing why board meetings couldn't continue to still be done through Zoom, just because some of us, by the time we would leave our house, go to Kansas City and turn around, if we came back the same night, it'd be a 13-hour drive for a meeting that might last 3 hours.
We've been having regional board meetings on Zoom since 2014.
Well, then shake up the people at the MCOR board because obviously they still feel they need to have face-to-face.
Not Zoom. That wasn't exactly true because it actually predates Zoom. But we had GoToMeeting, we had free conference call. We haven't had an in-person board meeting at the Northeastern region now for at least 5 years.
Well, and the problem that we were having or still having is a lot of these people would live close to the Kansas City area. They would show up because it's a short drive for them.
Yep.
And so they would make all these decisions when we'd have other board of directors that would not attend because of the distance, send in their proxy votes, and things would still get passed and they would still do things. And you just felt like your voices were not heard.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's a shame. Well,
We've
Well-
kind of digressed from that, so.
Yeah, James, we didn't want to hijack your meeting. I thought your
Yeah.
information was
Well,
real.
I think
was really
to,
good.
I think to reinforce some of the things that James has said, one thought that we've talked about off and on a lot is why not make the NMRA newsletter electronic so that more people can access it? And it becomes one of those benefits. Instead of paying for a printed copy, you can go online, get the electronic copy. Younger people like, and James will admits it, they like that electronic stuff, the social side of that. And, and I think some numbers I saw was that that magazine has to be subsidized to the tune of $50,000 a year. So make it electronic. It's open to all the members. We can use it to periodically open it up to others to view. I mean, the MCOR newsletter or magazine, the Caboose Kibitzer, is online. It's been electronic for, I don't know, a number of years now.
Sure.
And you can just go in and read it, and it's available to anybody, and it becomes a marketing tool.
That's on the list, having an electronic copy of the magazine.
There's actually a lot of work going on that right now.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. And that is one of those things that's when you get in and start looking at it, it can be complicated, but it can also be easy. So I think you'll see really, really rapid progress on that one too. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really nice guys in the meeting once in a while.
Nice what?
Have you guys in for a while. I apologize for kind of venting, but yeah, we've had our issues with national.
Well, I hear you.
I've heard some stuff that I'm going to look into for sure.
One of the things we're dealing with, and Pete, I think you can probably relate to this. We're in the very northeast corner of the mid-continent region. And like Tony said, for us to go to a meeting in Kansas City in January is problematic because we're dealing with snow.
Sure.
We're dealing with cold, we're dealing with ice, and it could be electronic. But at the same time, the mid-continent region is extremely large. I mean, it runs from us south to the Texas border, and from pieces in Illinois all the way over to the Colorado border. And and it's a huge area. I looked online real quickly while James was giving his presentation. He lives in the Dallas area. That's 6.48 million people. And that's more than twice the size of the state of Iowa. And, you're dealing with a couple of nodes that we're dealing, for membership, because we've got part of the Quad Cities, we've got the Iowa City area, we've got the Cedar Rapids metro area, and then we've got a lot of rural area in between and to the west of us. And it's quite honestly, it's hard to reach a lot of people out there. We have a division. It's not a division, it's an area because it's not organized. They're actually, land-wise, they're larger than we are. They had 8 members, and based on the region bylaws, they didn't have enough people to become an organized region or an organized division. And on top of that, they were to live too far apart.
Yeah.
And so I think the more we can do electronically and by whatever other means, it's going to help us grow the hobby and grow the membership. And the membership concerns me because it's been going down.
Right.
And that's kind of why I was harping about we got to show value before they become a member. Otherwise, you know, everybody's on a budget and you got to decide where you're going to put that dollar. And if you want to put it into doing some rail fanning, it's not going to go to membership.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I think there's got to be a lot of hard decisions made, you know, if the organization nationally is going to continue.
There will be,
I agree
you
with
know, I mean, they may not be pleasant for everybody, but there'll be some hard decisions made.
One thing that's kind of a fun fact about this whole issue of member density and members being a long way from each other and a long way from the action, and that isn't a not uncommon problem in all of the regions, in various different parts of all the regions. But just pull up your Google Maps and look at the map of Scotland, where Gordy Robinson, the new incoming president, is from. Gordy actually lives in the Orkney Islands. He can't even get to civilization without taking a boat. So you're getting a new president that's super, super sensitive about this idea of disconnection. In fact, the NMRAX video kind of events grew out of Gordy's kind of vision a few years ago for having he tried to start a virtual division, essentially. You know, sort of a distanceless, and got a little bit of pushback on that. But I think you are going to have a very sensitized kind of group there. You know, man, we don't know how to change the physics. If you live in rural Iowa, you're just that's where you are, right? And so it's hard to change the physics of that. But at least we're asking the questions. And of course, don't you think, in some ways, and James kind of hit on this pandemic has been an unexpected godsend in a way, because it's made us think about how we enjoy this hobby in such a different way. And I don't know about you guys, but I have all kinds of friends now that are in Australia and Great Britain. And
yeah, me too.
I was fortunate enough to see a clinic that Pete Steinmetz gave at one of the national conventions. So I already knew who Pete was, but I've seen his smiling face a whole hell of a lot more times than on a Zoom.
Yeah, lately for sure, the last year.
So
Yep.
there's been a good part of that that's come through this, I think.
Oh yeah, you know, I same thing. I've got friends all over. I've got a whole group in Europe. I'm supposed to go over and speak at a convention over there if it ever happens. In Australia, yeah, definitely. We've got friends all over. A lot of good friends.
But that will also have I think that will also have the challenge of us now having to rethink, well, what is the value of a local group getting together then? You got to be careful we don't fall into the trap of doing things at local division meetings that people then walk out of going, boy, I could have seen that online, you know? I could have watched that from home.
That's true.
We need to rethink what happens in those get-togethers, whether it's the lunch thing here that was just mentioned, you know, getting together for the lunch, the social.
One of the things that we've done for a long time that kind of that the pandemic wiped out. We just refer to it as the bug slap. But during the summer, what we would do is rent the community building in a small town that was kind of centrally located, and it was just a large work session. And we'd bring in the food. Everybody had a table they could work at. They could work on whatever they wanted to. It started out in my garage and it got too big for my garage. And it was very successful. I mean, we had more members showing up for that one event than we had for sometimes the rest of the meetings throughout the year combined.
Interesting.
And
that's a great idea.
It worked very well. And we've had members say they'd like to have it. And so and spring this on Tony a little bit, but when things calm down a little bit and more people are vaccinated, maybe we could do something like that. So I think someone suggested a virtual bug slap, Tony.
Well, we tried that last year. That wasn't affiliated with our division, just a group of guys, and it went well. But as I'm already kind of working on a schedule for 2022, the Bug Slap is on there along with a possible bus trip. So I guess we'll
Yeah.
have to be
And the,
ready at
and the
our
bus trips,
July meeting to hear all those good details.
and the bus trips have always been popular.
So, well, we're going on over an hour and a half. I would like to thank James for his time. Great clinic, obviously spurred on a lot of conversation for our division. Thank you all for being able to attend tonight. Just some things coming up for EID members. Our next business meeting will be Wednesday, July 14th at 7 o'clock. In August, we will have a clinic by Dave Ackman from the Gateway Division. September, we will have a virtual layout tour. In October, we will have our next business meeting again. So just some things coming down the pike. So thank you all for being here. I will certainly hang out if anybody wants to chit chat or that. Otherwise, you guys feel free to go ahead and sign off on that. And James, thank you again. It was nice visiting with you before the clinic, and I wish you the best. I hope you survived the heat and that. So as we're doing the same suffrage, it seems like, across the United States, not just in Texas. So thank you all.
Thanks, James. John.
Yeah,
and
James, thanks for the
Thank
invite.
you for listening to us.
Well,
James, sorry we
thanks
hijacked
for-
your clinic, but but I think it got some good conversation going. So
Very much so.
good deal. I'm
See you
gonna
guys.
pop off. Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Thank you.
It was nice visiting with you.